Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the panel for being here. Ms. Garza, on September 7th, nearly a month ago, we learned of the single largest data breach with more than 140 million individuals being impacted. When did the IRS learn of the breach?
So we learned it as part of the news that evening. The very next day, we got together and started to talk about what that impact to the IRS might be.
On September 8th, the next day, you were in contact with Equifax about the scope of the breach, whether it impacted the IRS data.
That's
As you
correct.
just said, in fact, IRS sent a team of IT experts, criminal investigators, and the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration to Atlanta to Equifax to verify everything that Equifax had told the IRS, correct?
That's correct.
Did you have any reason to doubt Equifax or what they had told you during that process?
I had no reason to doubt them, but it is our protocol to go and do a physical inspection to validate what we are being told.
Did you learn anything that caused concern?
So in this case, there were a couple of things. One, we were able to verify by looking at the forensics of what the bad actor did and was able to access that none of the IRS data had been compromised. However, we did find that we had gotten inconsistent information when we had first talked to Equifax. We did find that in their network logs, along with other companies' information, some of our information that we had sent over was maintained. But as I said, there was no evidence that the bad actors were able to get to the network logs. Their primary area to look at were the databases.
I read last night in the press that the IRS had just signed a $7 million contract to have Equifax provide identity proofing. That contract was decided on September 29th, correct?
That's what I had learned this morning.
So more than 20 days had passed since we learned of the greatest data breach in history, and you just signed a contract to pay Equifax to have access to IRS data for identity verification purposes. Did you approve and sign that contract?
I did not.
Mr. Tribbiano, did you approve and sign that contract?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Who signed the contract?
Our procurement officer would have signed that contract.
And who is that?
Ms. Shanna Webbers.
How many employees at the IRS have the authority to sign a $7 million contract binding the IRS on IT issues?
I'd have to get back to you on that, ma'am. I don't have that number.
Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I'm floored to sit here this morning. This is an abject failure. And I haven't been on this committee very long, but I think this is my third or fourth hearing already on this issue of IT and who's responsible. And we sit here this morning, we talk about all these issues we've talked about before with no changes happening. The American people are sitting there this morning saying, this is beyond abject failure. This is a management failure. If nothing, it shows that the IRS structurally needs some reform and needs major change. This is why the American people hold us accountable, and we try to hold you accountable. And then we have contracts being signed right in the middle of these investigations of the biggest data breach in the history of this country, exposing massive amount of Americans now to identity theft. Frankly, the IRS should not be in a position to have major IT acquisitions happening without you, Ms. Garza, or you, Mr. Tribbiano, even knowing that they're happening. I don't think there's anything anybody can say at this point other than pointing the fingers now to a third person that signed the contract. Mr. Tribbiano, did you want to say anything?
Yes, ma'am, if I can. I just want to clarify a couple things if I can and walk through this. And this is not an excuse. This is just what happens. We had a contract with Equifax. We had two different contracts. We had one that was managed out of our privacy team, and that was for credit monitoring. That contract was competed and awarded to a different vendor. So that happened and it went into effect October 1. We had the other contract, which was our e-authentication service contract. That was competed.
Excuse me, I know we're going to run out of time here. I see the yellow light. And I know you're going to get back to me the number of people that can sign these contracts, but obviously Ms. Garza can and you can, and the woman that you just explained can. Who else can? That's three right there, but who else has the authority to sign something like a $7 million contract binding?
I'll get back to you on that, ma'am, about the numbers. But
But you have to know the other people in the office that can sign.
Well, there's certain procurement officers that have warrants to be able to do that.
So are we talking 10 people? Or are we talking 15 people? Are we talking 5 people?
Their range of what procurement officers' warrants are for are varied. Some procurement officers have warrants up to a certain dollar amount. I have to be able to get you that breakdown and show you who and what category can.
I appreciate it, and I know I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield back.